Inter Miami beating Atlanta United 4-0. Leo Messi, 2 goals, 2 assists. Bossing it out there. Not a big surprise, but I know there's been some chatter online that Messi does this wherever he goes. And I 100% agree that we have plenty of evidence of him decimating teams in Spain, decimating teams in France when he played for PSG, doing the same for his national team. But it just felt a little bit too easy. And Heath, as our resident left back, and I'm obviously going to chime in. Charlie, I want your thoughts on this too. What was Atlanta United doing? Like the first goal, Sergio Busquets.
Not good. They're not.
Sergio, I get that. Well, that. I mean, at the end of the day,
one thing. People think this is Atlanta United 2018. They're not good.
They're not good. They're not good, and it's not a good look for anybody on that team, including another World Cup winner, Thiago Almada, who was a teammate of Messi, even though he didn't have too much impact on them winning it. He was still on the squad. You got Miles Robinson. He's on that back line, and obviously, he's got to take some responsibility for how they performed as well. But just basic schoolboy errors, Heath Pierce.
Yeah, it's horrible. It's just horrible. Just like every step of the way.
Horrible.
Bad.
Terrible.
I mean, look. We've all done nothing but talk about Lionel Messi for a month now. Who do you think that you should be marking on the field, or at least knowing where is he? Lionel Messi is not fast. He's not going to beat you on a foot race. But if you, I don't
know. I think he would beat you in a foot race.
Anybody that's a top sprinter in
fair.
But
fair.
With the ball, it's different.
Yeah, but
he's super quick.
You got no pressure on Busquets. You're going to allow Messi to just spin off.
That's the problem.
To hold the line.
Yeah, pressure on Busquets. Why the hell? Why in the hell are you letting Busquets get on the ball? What the hell?
Even Sosa that chased down Messi and then thought that was the end of the play, didn't have to follow him into the box, and then just thinking that, I won't follow this runner. I'll just run through this play and be done. It's just a lot of those little details that you're just like. That's why. Listen, I go back to the fact that Messi scoring a match winner at the end of the game on a free kick that no goalkeeper really has a chance for, unless they left early, unless they whatever circumstantially, was the best thing that happened to us, because when you see some of the other things that would have just hurt credibility, like you saw defending in that game, I'm glad he got that first one in where you're just like, it's Messi being Messi. Let's not make this about anything else, because you go to that next game where Messi has 2 goals and an assist, and that obviously that second hockey assist, you go, oh yeah, some of this could have been prevented. This was not Messi. This is not Messi being Messi. This is some bad defending being bad defending.
This is shambles.
Yeah.
You say the little details, and I wonder, because we get bits and pieces from the people we know behind the scenes, and I always ask a lot of questions about training methods and all that. And a lot of these teams that I'm hearing in MLS don't really work on team shape. They don't work on stuff that maybe they just take it for granted. Like, oh, well, they'll figure it out. They've had a lot of experience up until this point. I'm going to put them in a back four and they'll know exactly how to move. But when you start to play against players that have world-class ability and understand how to break down defenses and I've seen this before, I'm just going to do X, Y, and Z. And Messi and Busquets obviously are so good, obviously. But they know how to break that down, and then they start to bring in other players. Robert Taylor obviously is benefiting from this presence, right? He can run with purpose. He knows when Messi picks up the ball, if he busts his ass like he did on that last goal against Atlanta and gets himself in a good spot, the ball's going to be there. And I actually likened it. I had a conversation here that when Guillermo Barros Schelotto went to the Columbus Crew, and I bring up Schelotto because that changed their team. They had somebody that could hold the ball under pressure, could make the right pass at the right time. And then all of a sudden, Robbie Rogers had his best season ever because he could run with purpose. You guys know that if you're with somebody and you're on a team and they get the ball to you 50% of the time, Chuck could probably speak to this better than me and you, Heath. But okay, it's not that you won't make that run, but 75 minutes in, you're like, dude, that guy's not going to give me the ball. And now I'm going to have to track back if I make this run. Is it worth my time? I'm trying to be efficient with my energy. But when you have players like Messi and Busquets and Schelotto and all the other talented playmakers that have played in MLS, Valderrama and Echeverri, you run with purpose because you know those guys are going to get you the ball. Secondarily, if you don't run your ass off into those spots, they get pissed at you because they're waiting for you to get into those spots and those gaps so they can make the pass. So that's the level that we're seeing, obviously, with Inter Miami. And I just am pissed at the lack of defending acumen from what I saw from Atlanta, and I think it's going to be a big problem for a lot of MLS teams if they're not working on team shape and these little details, to Heath's point, to solve these types of problems.
I think what's very applicable to this situation is, Heath, in your experience with Thierry Henry and what it does for the group and how his demands in terms of playing style and training, if you aren't working your butt off to not only work for him and getting the ball, but for the team, and you want to be on the pitch playing with greatness, that it forces you to either sink or swim. You're going to give 100% commitment and effort to see the game and develop and play at this high level to win, or it's just not for you. You don't have it. You're not going to show up early. You're not going to put in the extra work, and that sees through, and then you're gone. You're not playing at all. And I think this group in particular with Inter Miami, you're not only getting Messi and Busquets, you're getting Tata Martino. The demands of every day have come up considerably. And so when you have that level, you are willing to make the extra run. You are willing to track back for a teammate that's out of position. You are going to just make runs because Busquets or Messi will find that pass where you may in the past you're like, oh, these young kids who are playing in the midfield, Kramaski and Ruiz, and they're not going to play me the ball. They can't even see me. They're looking down at the ball. So I think that's a big benefit to having a Messi, Busquets, and Tata Martino.
Interestingly, I was just literally before we were chatting, got on this on the show. I was chatting with Vanni Sartini, and he was talking about obviously Vancouver's going to play against the LA Galaxy, and the winner of that will go into the knockout rounds, as you had mentioned, Jimmy. And he had mentioned about Ricky Puig, and just that this guy as a player was he's like, this is one of the only guys. He's the only guy in the league, is how he started it, right? That can, when he's on the dribble, when he's on the fly, release the ball without setting up the touch to release the ball, right? He can play a ball in full stride, inside of the foot, outside of the foot, over the top, and perfectly weighted, and move the ball around in stride. And that disrupts defenses. And he was giving a respect, not so much to there is bad defending sometimes, but he also has this capability to release the ball at full speed that you don't see it coming. You don't have a chance to set up for it. And then he immediately caught himself, and he goes, well, as of a week ago, there's two guys in the league that can to do that same exact type of thing, and talking about Messi. And there's
three.
Yeah, right. But to some of the things that they do, and we'll continue to see, is at a world-class level, and rarely to see in your lifetime of that quality. However, there is still, just like Jimmy's talking about, that lost art of defending, not just individually, but collectively, to prevent things like that. It's like
the comments coming at Jimmy. Jimmy will have to go back to his coffin shortly.
Yeah.
It's early here. It is early in Sydney. And so, yes, do I know that I look like I just woke up? You're goddamn right. I look like I just woke up.
You actually don't. You don't look like that.
No, you look like you're about to go to sleep, actually, if I had to say.
Yeah, it's a sunrise. I got the sunrise behind me.
Yeah. Well, honestly, though, Jimmy was, during that era of Team Shape, with the square-toed boots, Chuck, where it was if it went to Jimmy, he just booted it, and he'd say, boot it, and they'd all just run up the field.
Send it.
Yeah. I played in the back three where I just had to mark somebody. That was my whole job. That was no joke. Early MLS, I played in the back three, and they're like, you're just marking Carlos Ruiz.
Well, that's crazy, because that's what Leon did, and they won the CONCACAF Champions League, Jimmy. So,
there you go.
If anything,
maybe that's
playing in the wrong league, or the wrong time.
Should have been down in Mexico. But I just it's frustrating, because there's a lot of little things that those teams could be doing. I know Messi's an incredibly special player. He's an alien in a lot of different ways. And so he's going to make a lot of defenders, especially in MLS, look foolish. But it just seems like, and I put this out in a tweet, that there's not a lot of money in great defending. You're not going to go out. I understand why there's no vested interest from MLS clubs we're going to go buy a great defender, or we're going to invest on that side of the ball, because that's great defending doesn't put butts in the seats, right? And it's not going to sell tickets, and people want to see goals.
It's also really nuanced, by the way. It's hard to see, right?
No,
Like,
yeah, it's
you
true.
played,
That's
I'm
true.
sure, Jimmy, you played with really good defenders that you were like, oh, they're really good because they're out of position, and the only play they make is the big play. And if they
A
just moved
desperation
over,
tackle.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
always talk about the Jamison Olave. I know he catches strays, but like he was always the one that got
Oh
the
my
goal
God,
line,
another
the goal
stray.
line of clearance, goal line clearances in games. And I'm like, yeah, but if you just challenged the ball 40 yards up the field, neither of us had to do this sprint to go back and make you the hero. You know, like let's not be heroes and win the game.
And who's for both of you? Who's been the best defender at reading the game to make it predictable?
For me, I'm a big Michael Parkhurst fan. If
Yeah,
you're talking
he
about a current player, yeah, I have to think about that. But Parky was
that you've played
fantastic.
with.
Yeah, Michael Parkhurst, Steve Cherundolo. I mean, these guys weren't physical specimens. You know, they weren't gonna.
Well, Parky had to be that way as a center back, small, not the biggest.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I mean, those kinds of guys though
you're
are
right
like
with reading
Jimmy,
the game is incredible.
Jimmy, you may have been you had said it. That was like kind of like you, and I think I learned this in college, which is from Clive Charles, which is like if you're a defender and you're having to leave your feet, it's because you're out of position, right? And if you can learn to read the game earlier, you're very rarely in those vulnerable situations. And if you can, very few can do it at that elite level where they're a step ahead of the game. You talk about like the Nestas of the world, you know, the Maldinis of the world that are just a step ahead of the thinking because they either see with their eyes or they see how the game's going and they've had enough reps to know like, if I'm a step ahead, I'm just going to pick this off as opposed to having to, you know, one of the frustrating things we all deal with is when you're a defender is having teammates that don't read the game really well, right? So everything is reactionary and the game is so fast now. And when you talk about playing against a Messi or another world-class player, you're done if you're trying to react to what they're going to do next as opposed to anticipating.
Yeah, anytime I see some shit defending, I text Parky and I'm like, this is a joke, man.